बोलिए सतगुरु महाराज की जय, सच्चे दरबार की जय. Welcome everyone to another spiritual discourse. Let me start today with an example Sri Ashutosh Marji often shared. It was about a man who wore an extra knot on his dhoti. Dhoti is a large piece of cloth that men wore to cover the lower half of their body. A person asked him, "Why do you wear this extra knot on your dhoti?" He replied, "Because my father wore it." The person inquired further, "Why did your father wear an extra knot on his dhoti?" The man replies, "Because his father wore it." He went home that day trying to inquire why this extra knot was on their dhoti, why his father and his grandfather wore this extra knot. And as he dug a little deeper, he found out that his grandfather started doing this so that he would remember that the days he had an extra knot on his dhoti, he had to stop at the store to pick up a few things. But over time, it just became tradition. Such is true today as well. With things we do, with rituals we perform, they have just become tradition. We lack the understanding behind why we do the things we do. We've just followed in the path of our elders and our ancestors. On Friday this week, Lord Ganesha will be celebrated all over the world. And in today's discourse, I'm going to try and shed some light on understanding what role Lord Ganesha plays, why he is worshipped, and what importance he has on our spiritual journey. In order to start that, let's go back to the story of Lord Ganesha. Mother Parvati, who is the consort of Lord Shiva, one day decides that she is going to collect all the dirt from her body, and she creates a form of a child that she calls Ganesh. And while she was going to take her bath, she asked Ganesh to guard the door and gave strict instructions not to let anyone come through the door while she is taking her bath. It was then that after 10 years of meditation, Lord Shiva decides to pay Mother Parvati a visit. But as he gets to her door, this little boy of 7-8 years old, Ganesh, is standing in front guarding the door. And he is adamant that he is not going to let anyone through this door. Lord Shiva insists, but Lord Ganesha is still adamant. They end up fighting each other, and Lord Shiva ends up cutting Ganesha's head. It is at that moment that Parvati comes out and is upset about everything that has happened. So Lord Shiva finds the head of an elephant and replaces Ganesha's head with the head of an elephant. So yes, Lord Ganesh is also known as the elephant god. This is a simple story that you might have heard many times, and maybe even question the existence of this story. But like scriptures have it, There is a lot of depth, a lot of spiritual wisdom behind the stories that are shared. In this case, Mother Parvati uses the dirt from her body to create the form of Lord Ganesh, to remind us that the soul does not take birth, just like Ganesh did not take birth. The human body is not who we truly are. We're not the body with a soul, but instead we are the soul with a body. Lord Krishna explains this in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Vasangsi jirnani yatha vihai, navani grannati naro prani, tatha sharirani vihai jirna, nyanyani sanyati navani dehi. He reminds us that just like we change clothes on a daily basis, the soul changes bodies. That the soul is eternal, it does not take birth and it does not die. So this story reminds us, Mother Parvati is reminding us, that we are not this perishable body, but in true essence, we are that soul that has existed from the beginning of time. Lord Ganesh was unable to recognize his father, Lord Shiva, which is true for us as well. As we come into this world, as we get engulfed in the illusion of this world, we forget to recognize our Heavenly Father. We sit and remember God in our own ways, maybe worship the forms of God that came on earth, but we do not recognize when that same power, when that same Shakti takes human form and comes on earth, we fail to recognize him as the Master. As history has it, time and time again, when that power, when that universal consciousness embodied itself in human form for the betterment of mankind, the people on earth failed to recognize them. And the only way that one can recognize who the true Master is, who the true Satguru is through the awakening of the third eye. And this is where, when Lord Shiva cuts off Ganesha's head, he does not replace it with the same head, but instead with an elephant's head. Lord Ganesha's head represents our ego, the barrier that stands between us and the Lord. Ganesh knew that he was powerful. He was created by Shakti herself. And this false pride prevented him from recognizing his father. Just like that, when our ego is slain, then Guru gives us something greater. The elephant's head represents wisdom. As we look at the elephant's head, it has a huge forehead, which represents the wisdom that an elephant possesses. We receive this wisdom when we surrender our ego in the lotus feet of a perfect master. Guru bestows us with wisdom, with that eye of discrimination, the eye of discernment that helps us decide right from wrong, that removes confusion in our lives and gives us clarity. Scientists have proven that the elephant's brain is very different from the rest of the mammals. It is the only brain that is 100% awakened, where all the neurons are active. On average, the human brain is 2% active. But as we receive the awakening of the third eye, as our consciousness starts to expand, the neurons in our brain start to become active, and we start to awaken to a higher consciousness. The elephant has big ears. We often hear the saying, in through one ear and out the other. But this can only hold true when we recognize what are the things that we need to retain and what are the things that we need to let go of. This comes through wisdom. The big ears represent listening more. And quite frankly, in today's day and age, we are bombarded with so much noise. Music, TV, things around us, we are surrounded with noise. But to recognize what are the things that I want to retain and what are the things I want to let go of, wisdom is necessary. The elephant has small eyes, but their eyes are like magnifying glasses that see far into the future, that see far away objects much closer. As we sharpen our wisdom, our vivek, as we continue to practice the technique of Brahm Gyan, this vivek, this eye of discrimination is sharpened, which gives us insight into the future, so that we can make our decisions of the actions we're doing today based on our insight. Ganesh has one tusk compared to elephants that have two tusks. The two tusks represent the truth and the illusion, that duality that exists. But Ganesh has one tusk so that we remind ourselves to transcend the illusion of the world and connect with the truth. See just what is true. Not to get caught up in the illusion, not to get caught up in the Maya, in the duality of this world, but to rise above it and see only the truth. Ganesh has a trunk, and this trunk has such strength that it can uproot a tree, or it can be used to pick flowers out of a pond. The trunk of Ganesh represents strength and softness, to remind us that an individual that's walking on the spiritual path is not to be considered weak, but they have great strength, yet a softness to them. But it is the wisdom that they attain that enables them to recognize when to use their power, when to use their strength, and when to be soft. If we look at the life of Lord Krishna, He is known as someone who ran away from war, but also the one who led Arjun in the greatest battle of all times, the Mahabharata. It is this wisdom that we attain as we continue to practice Brahm Gyan, so that we can recognize when do we need to act out of strength and when do we need to act out of softness. Lord Ganesh has 6 arms. The first arm has an axe. This axe is a representative of cutting karma, both good and bad. And you might wonder, why do we want to cut our good karma? Well, whether a prison is made of metal or gold, it's still a prison. Just like that, karma, good or bad, both are bondage. Both keep us tied to this world, tied to this plane of the earth. But through the technique of Brahm Gyan, through the awakening of the third eye, that fire of Gyan within enables us to burn the seeds of our karma, both good and bad, so that we can remove our bondage from this illusionary world and connect to that higher consciousness, connect to that supreme consciousness, so that we can fulfill the purpose of why we are here. His second arm holds a rope. The rope is used to tie something down. Just like that, this rope signifies tying down the mind. It signifies discipline. We all know that we cannot attain anything in this world without discipline. Instilling the discipline of our meditation practice holds great importance on the attainment of wisdom. The third arm holds a trident. And no, he's not holding it just because his father holds one. But the trident is like a fork with 3 prongs. This represents the 3 eras of time: past, present, and future. Often, when something happens to us that we do not expect, we ask the question, why me, God? What have I done to deserve this? But for an individual that recognizes that we're not this body, that we have come on earth for many lifetimes, that the past does not only mean the past of this birth, but it includes all the lifetimes we have existed before this one, then that question of why me, I don't deserve this, why is this happening to me, disappears. And that individual will recognize that what I do in the present moment will shape my future. This fork is also mentioned in the Bible, where Jesus says that the fork is in my hand. It is through the connection with that light that we can make right action today and burn away our past karma so that we can shape where we're headed in the future. His fourth hand holds a Modak, which is a sweet. And during this festival of Lord Ganesh, a lot of individuals make Modaks. And it is a very hard sweet. It takes a lot of effort to make this sweet. But at the end of it, end of all that effort, is this sweetness. As we travel on the spiritual path, people around us, friends and family, will start to recognize differences and will start to call out how they feel like we have evolved, we have come a long way. They praise us for our journey. Lord Ganesh holds the Modak. He doesn't eat it. This Modak represents the praise that we receive. It is a reminder to us to hold this praise, not to eat it, not to take it in. When we recognize that we have come this far only through the grace of our Guru, through the grace of our Master, then we will hold this praise and not let it get within us. The fifth hand he holds is a lotus. The lotus lives in a swamp but is connected to the sun. It blooms when the sun is out. This is a reminder for us of how to live. We live in this illusionary world, but yet we should be connected to that sun, to that light that lies within us. If you drop any water on the petals of a lotus, it just rolls off. The lotus does not absorb it. Just like this, we are to go through life's experiences, not getting caught up in it, not thinking that we are going through this, not questioning all the situations we're going through, but instead understanding that we're on a journey, and every experience, good or bad, is because we are meant to go through it. And the last hand, the sixth hand of Lord Ganesh, is held up like this, what we know as Ashirwad or blessing. We often open our hands like this because we're always looking to receive. But Lord Ganesh reminds us to give, because what we give is what we will get. As we continue to ask and continue to receive, those desires will not be quenched. But we are here as embodiments of the Lord. So he reminds us to give as much as we can, and in whatever form is possible. Lord Ganesh has a big belly. And no, it's not a reminder that we should eat as much as we want, but Lord Ganesh reminds us that the source of disappointment and depression is due to expectation. Think of the last time you got upset with someone. And the more you think about it, you'll realize it's because you had an expectation of that person. And because they did not fulfill that expectation, you got upset. But the big belly symbolizes the journey from expecting to accepting. To accept whatever comes your way, whatever reactions people give you, whatever situations, experiences, whatever the journey of life brings you, accept it for what it is. Next is how Lord Ganesh is seated. One leg is crossed and the other leg dangles down with just his toes touching the ground. This symbolizes how we're meant to live in this world. Because we live in this world, we are bound to action. We have to perform, but one leg crossed and one leg dangled down is a reminder to act out of wisdom, to perform our duties, but staying connected to the Lord. It is only then that we will perform righteous actions that will benefit not only us, but all of mankind as well. And we cannot forget Lord Ganesha's mouse. When we think of mice, what do you think of? Destruction. If you get mice into your house, they will destroy everything. They will chew out wires, baseboards, furniture. They will chew out everything. But Lord Ganesh rides the mouse, controls the mouse. Does not kill it, just controls it. Reminding us that if the mind is let loose, it will only cause destruction. It will only create havoc. But if the mind is controlled by Ganesh, by the soul, it is then that it will be your vehicle. It will be your transport that takes you along the path of spirituality. So brothers and sisters, the form of Lord Ganesh all root back to one thing: wisdom. To have knowledge is one thing, but to know how to apply that knowledge in the right context is wisdom. Today, knowledge is at our fingertips. Google has all the answers, but it takes wisdom to decipher what is true and what is not. There is a story in the Bible of Solomon, a young boy. God asks him to ask for anything his heart desires, anything at all. And Solomon asks for wisdom. God, pleased with this, says that because you asked for wisdom, everything, the riches of the world, wealth, health, everything will be given to you. Because when one expands their consciousness, when they attain wisdom, then the universe entrusts them with more. Through the awakening of the third eye, the technique of Brahm Gyan that Sri Ashutosh Marji has provided us with awakens the third eye. But it is only through practice and through experience that we can attain wisdom. If you have ever seen a knife sharpened the old way, the knife is rubbed back and forth on a stone in order to sharpen it. Nothing that is weaker than the knife can be used to sharpen it. It has to be something that's stronger than the knife. Hence, a stone is used. On the spiritual path, in order to sharpen our vivek, in order to expand our wisdom, Guru has given us the stone in the form of congregation, satsangs, service, our meditation practice. We are rubbed back and forth on this spiritual path through experiences, physical or mental, to help our vivek sharpen, to help our wisdom expand. We go through experiences along this journey in the ashrams, within our mind, things that come up that push us back and forth, this tug of war within us. But Guru puts us through these experiences so that we can sharpen our vivek, so that we can expand our wisdom and do the right actions needed today so that we can shape the future, not only for ourselves, but for everyone, for this entire universe. So for all the brothers and sisters who celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi, this year, don't make it all about eating the modaks, but remind yourself to practice the technique of Brahm Gyan so that you can be awakened to the knowledge of the Creator. The more that knowledge is revealed to you, the more your wisdom will expand. This festival is tied to the awakening of that wisdom. On that note, we'll conclude today's discourse. Boliye Sadhguru Maharaj ki Jai, Sache Darbar ki Jai. Till next time, stay safe,